Welcome back, everybody. I have the distinct pleasure of speaking with somebody who I believe now I can call a friend, and I'm really happy to do so. A wonderful actor, somebody who I've seen on Billions for the past 4 years, Malachi Weir. Welcome to the show, Malachi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for letting us into your home. My goodness, people talk about the in-depth interviews that I conduct. Now we have everything and the kitchen sink, so I'm really happy about that.
You do have the kitchen sink, and I hope that people talk about what I say instead of like, what was that weird thing on his fridge? Or God forbid, something I'm not seeing that I've forgotten about.
Well, listen, if people need to focus on something, they can just focus on my haircut and the reason why my hair is just standing out after having it. So, I'm sure there'll be plenty of things that they could pick apart if they want to.
You and I both, we'll have hair issues. It'll be the hair episode.
Hey, why not? Listen, with your hair, I have a lot to look up to, so I'm not in the same category.
It's give me another 2 or 3 inches of height.
Speaking of hair, obviously, that's a distinctive feature that people notice about you. I know that you kind of made a choice and you started growing it a little while back. What led you to say, you know what, I want to grow it out? I think that's more me.
Thank you for the question. Thank you, really. Excuse me. When I was in school, like high school, I used to try to get my hair to look like John Taylor from Duran Duran. And having being multi-ethnic, my hair was like straight and curly and straight and curly, so it never did the John Taylor thing. I found a band, Fishbone. I love ska, and Fishbone is one of my favorites. And the keyboard player had hair kind of like this, and I was like, yes, that's what I want. I want something like that. Excuse me again. So early on, I started growing my hair out like this, and I thought it was more me. Just it felt better than doing, well, here are the 3 or 4 cuts that everybody gets. So, I mean, I did some of those too. But once I got into the business, I thought it was really important to do something that was a little bit different, because I found that when I first started, my hair was short and I was going in for very stereotypical parts. And I thought, well, people are trying to put me into this box and I don't want to go into the box. So let me just be myself and see what happens. So for better or worse.
Well, for better, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's really an interesting choice because people want to fit in. And we're talking about types, and you and I will elaborate on that. But we're talking about types, and I'm the dad type, the lawyer, the doctor type. But it doesn't mean that even though you think you know your type, you should be yourself. You should be different. There has to be something different about you, not just in your personality, but in your appearance, that makes people say, okay, that's interesting. I want to have that. So I'm glad you made that choice. That's a brave thing to do, and good on you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think a lot of people say they want to be in the business and they want to they want to make a mark. They want to show that they're an individual. And then I used to print headshots for actors years ago, about the same time Friends was on, and the amount of women that would come in with, and all their haircuts would be like the Courtney Cox, or the Jennifer Aniston, like literally like headshot after headshot. And I remember talking to casting directors, and they were like, I want something unique, and I'm getting the same thing over and over again, which just kind of made me go, okay, well, I'm going to stick with my choice then to do something different.
Yeah. Again, your hair, and I'm not as much of a musician as you are, but your hair, the first thing that came to mind, which I'm sure you've heard that before, but it's Don King. That's the kind of what I went to, because I remember, I grew up obviously watching boxing, and Mike, put the fear of God into everybody, including myself, when I was looking into his eyes as I was watching. So that's the first thing that came to mind. I know there was actually a movie made where, God, he's an incredible actor. I forgot his name, that played Don King. Did Don's haircut ever play a choice in yours, or that was a separate issue?
No, I think he made some different choices than I made in terms of up, and just like, mine looks like a deflated fern. His looks like a young fern. No, it all depends on your reference point. So my reference point was ska music. If you're an athletic person, if you're into boxing, you'd say Don King. If you were a social scientist, you might say Cornell West, so it just depends on, what it is that you see in your day to day. So then you just take that, you plant it, so to speak, on somebody else. So
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to go back and kind of take a screenshot of yours and screenshot of Don King's and compare. That's my homework after the fact.
do your
Um,
homework, do an update
yeah.
later.
So you mentioned something which actually this whole discussion brings into light of how casting directors and how producers and directors how they view us as actors, and they
Right,
view us through the lens of what they're accustomed to. And
right.
again, it's, oh yeah, he reminds me of this, or I know an actor and he has that same energy and I want that. So that could be the positive end of it. The negative end of it is like, no, he reminds me of somebody who I have a bad association with, and I'm not going to do it just because of that, regardless of how great an actor is, which
Yeah.
really brings into the alignment of as actors, there are a million reasons why we're not chosen for a role, and very few of them have anything to do with how good or bad we are.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to trusting who you are as an individual, because if you're chasing something that's not you, something that you think people want, you're not being authentic. And yeah, you're right. There's no way to tell. A casting director can be like, that looks like my ex-boyfriend, I'm never going to cast him in anything. Or they could be like, oh, that's a really unique energy and I really love it. And it could be, you could do the exact same thing in front of 10 different casting directors and get 10 different responses. So there's some things you can't control.
That's true. You've mentioned multi-ethnic. I actually want to talk to you about that because I didn't know you were multi-ethnic, and then in talking to you and in doing some research, I found that out. Um, in again, going back to those boxes, and did you find that it was a hindrance of people didn't know where to place you, or was it a helpful thing where people said, hey, you're kind of ethnically ambiguous, and we can use you in multiple parts. Which way was it for you?
Absolutely a hindrance.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. This business has a lot of very, very cool aspects. But one of the less cool aspects is that certainly now you have a lot of accountants making decisions, a lot of algorithms. So people look and say, well, we want the black demographic and we need this type and that type. And that's been there for a while, really. But I remember when I first started, I took a commercial class, and no complaints from the teacher, no complaints from the scene mates or anything. Felt good about it. We had our showcase night and a casting director came in. I did my thing and she was like, you're really good, but I just don't see where you fit in this world. And
Yeah.
that was it. People that I've walked into black projects where they're like, you're not black enough. I've walked into white projects where they don't seem to understand I'm multi-ethnic, or that I should be seen as maybe a human first. So that people are looking to fit someone into a little, cookie cutter kind of a thing. And if you don't fit, you are kicked out pretty quick. So anytime I've been cast, someone's been willing to be a little bit more interesting than that, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's just stupid. I can find a more eloquent word, but that's just stupid and ignorant and
Yeah.
not allowing yourself to actually look outside and see the world for what it is and be able to represent it in your projects for what it is. And yeah, it's just whatever.
It is
Um,
stupid. Things have definitely changed over the years. And one of my commercial agents a long time ago, actually, that was something that was really lovely. When I first started commercially back in 2000, I met with my commercial agency, Atlas, and the woman there, Lynn Erickson. I think she sent me out on one audition, went into the office, and she said, here's the deal. You're not even close to a commercial type, but we think you're great, and we're just going to put you out there and make you one. So here's someone who took that same sort of like, okay, I get that you don't fit into the sort of P&G Procter and Gamble world, but we think you're awesome, so we're gonna push. And I've done 30, 40 commercials. So that was just someone who believes in you in every single job. That's sort of what it's been. It's someone who says, yeah, you know what? I don't care. We like them. And theoretically, that's the way it's supposed to be. So I feel very blessed for every job I've done.
Yeah, thank God for her, and I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah, and
Um,
things have definitely changed. I'd like to think that I've had a small part in changing them, because I've just like, I won't do the thing. I've had another legit audition where someone asked me to be more street, a pretty famous director, and I was just like, no, and I don't hear people ask that question anymore.
yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to hear that. You have to make choices. Again, my career is here, but I've been asked to play Vladimir Putin. I'm like, really? I don't look like Putin. I know we can color my hair and we can do all sorts of things, but just because I'm Russian speaking does not mean that all of us look alike. Yeah. So I said no to that, aside from the fact of what I actually think about Vladimir Putin. But yeah, you have to be true to yourself and allow that to come through. Um,
You absolutely have to. And it shows when we talk about institutional racism. That's a part of it. Someone doesn't take the time to see an individual. They just go, Russian, got it. Go sit over there. You're our Putin guy.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I go back to Walter Matthau, who I love, and sadly won't ever have a chance to interview. But Walter was always introducing me. Okay, I'm not going to say always. I've heard that Walter was referring to himself as the Ukrainian Cary Grant. So it's one of those things. I haven't found that type of a funny simile for myself, but I'm looking and I'll find something. Um,
Experience will give it to you.
I
The
think
more
so.
you experience, you'll fall into something. You'll go, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. Um, let's finish off our kind of discussion on how people view you or perceive you by talking about your name. I was one of those,
Yes,
and by the way,
yes, Constantine.
yes, thank you for doing your research. I appreciate that. We'll dive into that if you like. But I was one of the not few, I imagine, who mispronounced your name, who just made an assumption. Usually I do research, but we jumped on the phone and I called you, and instead of saying Malachi, I said Malachi. And
Yeah.
the measure of a man is how he responds to that, and you responded wonderfully, and I think that's why we're still talking. So. Yeah, but it's interesting, and again, it's the perception, right? I am Jewish. I have a Jewish background. I'm not religious, but I am Jewish heritage. So for me, when I looked at your name, I should have thought Malachi, but because of your appearance and because of whatever things are pre-programmed, it didn't make that connection. So I wonder when people are looking at your name and they're looking at your resume,
Right.
were they coming up with their own conclusions and saying, well, yeah, that's too weird, or it doesn't play with what my associations are? Did you encounter any of that foolishness?
Well, first of all, with your Jewish heritage, you should have said Malachi, because
I
that
know.
would be the correct way of pronouncing it.
Yep.
But yeah, I've heard everything. I've heard absolutely everything. When I was younger, anytime we had a school trip, we would hang out and just wait for the parent chaperone to mispronounce my name. Malachi, again, it depends on your frame of reference. If anyone who watched Happy Days heard Malachi Crunch, so Malachi becomes the thing. If
Yeah.
you're Irish, you tend to call me Malachi, because my name through Ireland is Malachi or Malachi, or just butchering it. So, it depends. And yeah, it was, again, I can't tell what casting directors have thought along the way. Like, I can't get in their heads, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, every people unfortunately tend to follow the path of least resistance. And if my name was John Smith, boom, no one's got to feel embarrassed by mispronouncing it. No one has to take any guesses, although they might take a guess at that point. So yeah, it's I'm sure there are a lot of people that are like, I don't even feel like dealing with this, or people that, and I was told this a few times, people that might have thought, oh, we don't want a Jewish guy for this, so we're going to go a different way, or people that are like, yeah, we want a black guy, but this is, I don't know what this guy is, but again, my appearance, my name. I don't offer easy answers for people in the beginning of my career.
And good, right? Good for you. Be yourself. You know, I
I don't
hope.
have much of a choice, so
Uh,
I don't have much of a choice.
Well, some people could be tempted to instead of, and again, I'm not suggesting this in any way, but as somebody who is coming up, some people might have been tempted to say instead of Malachi, I'll just take Mel, right? So it's Mel Weir,
Right.
and it makes it a little more palatable for other people. Again, trying to fit in, and you didn't go that path. You know, Barbara Streisand never had surgery, even though people were saying that her nose is too big. She said, no, this is who I am. This is a part of my musical instrument. I'm not doing it. I really respect people who are saying, this is who I am, and I don't care. I'm going to continue being myself, and I don't need to be fit into a little box.
Yeah, I agree. And there are a lot of people in the world, and certainly in this business, that do a lot of altering for whatever their reasons.
Yeah.
So.
That's okay. So you've mentioned Constantine. You kind of threw that out. Did you have a question about that? Because people know me as Alan Weisberg right there. They don't know who this Constantine thing is.
Yes, but I know your real name, and I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool. Is there a comic book character, Constantine? There's a
Yeah.
the movie Alphaville, the main character, if I recall correctly, his name Constantine. I'm still waiting to get my DVD back from a friend. I haven't seen it in like 10 years now, but Lemmy Caution. No, Lemmy Caution is his name. This where I'm getting Constantine from. But it's a great name. It's such a great name. So I would suggest sticking with it, but I certainly understand reasons for changing a name. And yeah.
Okay. Well, now the cat's out of the bag, so let's just clarify a few things. My real name is Alan Weisberg. I was born Constantine, and then through coming to the United States, I came to the United States with my Russian first name and Russian last name, which then I ended up changing years later. So it was more of, hey, you have way too many letters in your name. There's no way that people are going to be able to spell it, pronounce it, or understand it. It's the realization when I was in former Soviet Union, Ukraine. My name I thought was a Russian name, Constantine. When I came here, it became a Greek name, and then I had to study a little bit of history to understand that connection. And people would just say, just call yourself Costa or Dinos or any of that. But I'm not Greek. I didn't want to kind of portray the fact that I'm Greek and make people assume that I am. So it's that and a variety of things that made me legally change. So it's Alan Weisberg now. But yeah, some of my old friends still call me Constantine.
Right. Well, aside from it being a cool name, and obviously, I mean, like I said, we all make our choices.
Yeah.
I think that part of it for me, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to illustrate it, a couple of years ago when people started recognizing me, one of the coolest moments was being at a Duran Duran concert. So I've just given up a little bit between Duran Duran and the Atari shirt. So now we can guess the age and the hair color. It was a Duran Duran concert. It was amazing because I'm there. I'm like, oh my God, I love these guys. I already mentioned John Taylor, so I guess the Duran Duran thing's out. And I'm thinking these guys really influenced me, and I'm here getting a chance to watch them finally after all these years. And this guy and his wife come up to me and they're like, "Are you Malachi Weir?" And I was like, "What?" Like, nobody knows my name. No strangers come up and say my name, and then no one ever pronounces it correctly. So I was blown away. And then they were fans of the show, and I was just like, they're getting a picture of me with the stage behind us, and Duran Duran is back there, and it was the craziest. It was the craziest thing. But the point of the story actually is that the world continues to narrow on us. People break into these camps, it's tribalism, and as long as we present the world with easy solutions, we're going to have really simplistic answers. So kind of in a very, 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 very small way, allowing room for something else. So someone's got to find a way to pronounce the name or understand the history. Oh, where's Malachi come from? And I can say, oh yeah, last book of the Old Testament. Da, da, da. So I appreciate making those little tiny, tiny ant-sized strides.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on with acting, and you kind of touched upon Billions, which is where I know you from originally. And it's, everybody knows what I'm about to say, which is it's my second most favorite TV drama of all time. And I look at it as an acting school. So I kind of, every time I watch it from two perspectives. One is I'm really interested in the content of the show, and the second is I watch people act, and then I stop and I rewatch, and it's just incredible to me. What is it from your side, from actually being there and watching these people work? And you work a lot with Paul Giamatti, who's just an embarrassment of acting riches.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
It's amazing is the easiest way to put it. It's absolutely amazing. And it's absolutely acting school for me as well, which is tricky because you're on set and you have to do your job, but then
Yep.
you're also trying to learn and find a balance, which has to be more do your job than learning. But yeah, I would love to sit with Paul between every scene and be like, so when you made this choice, was it, but you got to also be in the zone. I feel very, very fortunate. I feel very fortunate on so many levels. Yeah, I came from right before Billions. I decided to move to California to try acting there. Didn't work out so well. Didn't have good representation, so I came back and didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, God, maybe I'm out of the loop. Maybe I pulled myself out. And luckily got that Billions audition. And at the time, it's one scene. You may come back, but probably not given what happens to you in the scene.
Yeah.
So every time they ask me back, I'm like, this is amazing. I feel really lucky. And yeah, it's when I, more often than not, when I go to work, I go work with Paul Giamatti. And I don't know if you can, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he's really wonderful. He makes learning comfortable and he makes acting with them totally enjoyable. So.
What have you found, and again, in terms of his approach, just to dive into that for a second, but what have you found in his approach that you were like, okay, this is great. I'm going to try doing some of that myself. Was there anything that you noticed with him?
Well, I mean, he's super prepared, which allows him the opportunity to have fun on set, which I mean, it's just a good idea, obviously, to be prepared in general, but he's prepared to a point where, to me, it feels supernatural. I just need to do more work, I'm sure, but he gets the character. He understands what it's like to be on set, to be filmed, so he understands the relationship between him and the camera. He interacts with everybody on set and off set in a way that makes everybody feel good. And that actually has been watching him with a fan in the very beginning was one of my strongest memories, actually. We had done a scene where we were walking through Central Park, and as we were doing the scene, more and more people were gathering at the bottom of Central Park waiting to get a picture with him or talk to him. So we finished, and I watched him talking to everybody, and he was so just gracious and so kind. Everyone wants pictures taken. And the funny moment for me was it was just a crowd of people around him, and I was just kind of standing there off to the side. And this one guy steps out of the crowd with a little camera, and he's like, to take a picture of me. And I'm sure the guy was like, well, he must be somebody. I mean, he's working with Paul Giamatti. So I got that one picture, my first fan photo, I think. The guy was not sure what he was doing or who he was taking a picture of. But watching him do that, watching him transition between the work and something very comfortable was actually really important to see how comfortable he was and to see that I don't know, the job is a lot of things. It's not just going in and doing a good job. It's not just being prepared. It's who you are as a person. It's how you're interacting with everybody, making people feel good. And that was a big thing to watch someone who's, one of the leads of a show and watch how that person actually carries the show, not just the work, but across the board, making sure everyone feels great. And then in terms of just the work itself, yeah, being dedicated, making strong choices, and then also being able to pull back after a strong choice and go, was that just stupid? Was that because I mean it like could have been stupid, you know? So he'll be really funny about it too. So he commits, but then he pulls back into that sort of actory place of like, tell me that was bad because it could have been bad, you know. It's he's pretty great. It's great. It's masterclass for.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think either, you know, in our earlier conversations or in some research that I've done on you, you auditioned for a number of parts. Did you kind of have potentially a choice between, you know, being Team Chuck and Team X? Did I read that correctly?
I did. I auditioned for two different parts. So Lonnie was one, and then a part on Axe's side.
Yeah.
And I believe I had two auditions for each. And at one point, my the agent I had at the time said to me, "So, do you want to work with Paul Giamatti or Damian Lewis?" And just yeah, like I mean, I think I got goosebumps and just kind of glossed over. Then I was like, "I'm sorry. What are you?" She's like, "Which one? Who do you want to work with?" I'm like, "Is that? Are you actually asking me? Or is this sort of like a convert? Like, what's going on?" You know? And she was like, "Do you want to work with?" And I was like, "Oh my God!" And so like an impossible choice, but I went kind of literal, which was you always ask for a sign in life, right? You're like, ah, somebody give me a sign. So every audition I had, I would drive down this particular highway, and there was a sign for Giamatti Little League, and I would literally every day see a sign that said Giamatti, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to go with if you ask for a sign and you get one, you should probably just go with it. But
Yeah.
again, an embarrassment of riches. Like those are my choices. I don't know if they were really my choices. Maybe they're just being nice to me or something. But I don't know when I'll have those choices again.
That's amazing. And going back to what you said about him being, you know, a really good person, that's important. I remember, you know, I'm a tennis player. I go to, you know, not anymore, but you know, in normal times we would go to tennis tournaments, and sometimes we get a chance to talk to the coaches of the players. Sometimes we get a chance to talk to kind of people behind the scenes, and it was always interesting to find out of, you know, what are the players actually like when they're not in the spotlight. And you hear stories, and I'm not going to name any names, but you know, some players who are huge stars are not very nice, and some players who are huge stars are just, you know, salt of the earth. They talk to everybody. They're uplifting everybody. It's very interesting to kind of take a look at it. I'm very happy to hear that Paul, who I love on screen for, you know, the past 20 years, is somebody who's that good behind the camera as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, you know, and another thing about that assessment, and that assessment is true, but there's another layer to it, which is sometimes people that seem kind of like dicks might actually be great, but you have no idea what's going on in their personal life. You don't know if they're working on some aspect of their character, so they can seem horrible, but they're actually having a moment. And other people that seem really great, and then you turn around and you know they don't call back, or they, you know, they're just so, you know, like anything else, you get to know a person after a little while, you get a better sense of who they are. That first impression is 50-50.
Yeah, I get you. And do you have anybody in mind that you're okay sharing that, you know, you saw them in a light that was not the most pleasant, and then realized that, hey, they were just working on a character?
I'll give you two different stories, I think.
Okay.
One, yeah, there was a guy I met on a set of a show. I won't use his name,
That's fine.
but although it worked out fine. When I met him, he just had this kind of attitude. I was like, oh my God, like, oh, that's what people talk about when they talk about jerk actors. And then I saw the show, and that was absolutely his character. So now I don't know if it was his character because he's always like that, or if that just happened to be his character, but he was definitely in character. Um, Another actor that I worked with, actually the first person, again, goes to show you on that first impression thing. The first job I ever did was American Psycho. So I got to work with Christian Bale. And when I was first introduced to him, he was sort of like, hey, and he walked away. And I was like, oh my God, it's my first job. And he's like, oh my God, this is like, and this is like 1999. I was like, ooh, wow, this is going to be tough. Like, I'm going to have to like We're not going to be friendly. It's not going to be what I imagine sets are like. This is just going to be doing my job. Like 10 minutes later, there's a hand on my shoulder and it's him. He's like, I'm so sorry. I've not had any coffee yet. I'm horrible without coffee. How are you? What's going on? And he was like so apologetic, and he couldn't have been nicer. So again, the whole country should really start giving people more of a chance. You know, it's not that sort of like that snap decision, like, oh, I got them figured out. It's like, no, you don't have them figured out.
Yeah. I think actually and this is, share if you wish, but I remember, in our conversations, you've mentioned that you kind of when you were driving recently, and this is, before COVID, there was a man whose car stopped, and you were deciding whether, this is somebody that is um, safe, for lack of a better explanation, or maybe I'll just shut up and I'll let you tell that story if you like.
No, you're doing fine, but I'll pick up. Yeah, God, a year ago, roughly, I was getting off an exit ramp, and there was a guy whose car was stalled, and it was a truck, and it was kind of like a crappy looking truck. I pulled up behind him, and the first thought was like, oh, come on, what is this? And then I'm like looking at this guy who clearly nobody wants to be in that situation. Sort of white guy in his like early mid 20s, looked kind of like, like blue collar guy. So I look at him, I'm like, he just looks like he's in pain, right? So I pulled the car over. I was there with the person I was dating. And I was like, just, keep an eye on me, make sure nothing happens. But I went over, I was like, can I help you? And he was like, yeah, could you maybe you could, and I think he was going to ask me to push, and then he realized that was weird. So he's like, could you just steer the car for me? I was like, sure. So I got into the driver's seat, and he was listening to classical music. So again, it's like, okay, so bad on me. All right, he's listening to this like beautiful music. I help him out, and as I'm doing this, someone else must have seen this interaction because of the line of cars. He pulled over, got out of his car to help push. So those two guys pushed. I steered the car off the side of the road, and we all kind of, gave each other a bit of a smile. And the guy whose car or truck it was, I was like, "You okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, I can't believe anybody even stopped to help me." And I think that, certainly racially, I'm sure it was interesting because it's not an area that's populated with a lot of people of color. So if he had any weird ideas, I'm sure that kind of challenged them. Obviously, it challenged his idea of how people behave. So hopefully he went off feeling a little bit happier, a little bit more comfortable. Unfortunately, the current situation probably is, turned him back into someone who doubts humanity like a lot of us do at this point. But
Yeah. Yeah. You and I both, and I think that's where, again, your background, you studied sociology and psychology in college. For somebody who is so interested in people as you are, watching what is happening in our world right now and for the last number of years, must have been at the very least confusing and sad.
yeah, it's in the last few years, feel like things have accelerated or decelerated maybe. But the last couple of months certainly have been
Yeah.
fascinating. I want to say fascinating. I wish I was on the ISS looking down and I could just be like fascinating. But unfortunately, we're all in it. I think that, oh, God, who knows what? Every week, I'm like, oh, well, when this is over, and my idea of what that looks like changes. In the beginning, day to day. Now it's like week to week. But a lot of potential for good, but there's a lot of bad, and we're dealing, America in particular. I think we read on the fourth grade level, so you're on average. So you're dealing with a populace whose breadth of expression starts at the fourth grade level. So are we going to have people that are just angry and want to fight, or people that want to talk and work something out? And it's a myriad of issues around that. Like, do people trust science? Do they not trust science? They demonize intelligence. Do you pray for someone who's smart enough to figure things out? It's a bit of a mess.
It is. And again, in my research on you prior to the show, I really liked that you emphasized multiple times in different interviews that it's really not what's different between us, but what unites us. And what is common is far more interesting, far greater, and in far greater supply of what is common between us. I love that part. And I'm the same way. It's just I've been struggling with what's happening in the world and trying to justify my interest and ability to look and find the best in people with what I see them do right now.
Yeah, right now is a really difficult time to trust in the good.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, and yeah, I've said it. I'll continue saying it. Uh, the first thing that pops into mind is talking to someone who was asking me about race, and I was like, let's talk about tennis because you're a tennis player, I'm a tennis player, and like immediately he started smiling. I was like, that's my point. Like we can talk about all this stuff that's divisive, and I mean, trust me, it needs to be talked about. It absolutely needs to be talked about, possibly in a different way than it's being discussed. Again, people talk about race, the real issues are socioeconomics. There's a lot more that an urban Black person will have in common with a rural white person, but society has pitted those two against each other artificially. So again, you have to break through that artifice to get to the actual thing, but people are so reactionary, you can't really break through the shell. I mean, you can, but it's tricky.
Yeah, and America is no different from any other large countries in that regard. You know, I grew up in the former Soviet Union. There, it seemed homogenous because everybody was white, with very few you know, skin tone, color differences of people that were on the Asia part of it, or kind of you know, a little different in the way that they look. But what they did is they, like every country, figures out a way to discriminate and to separate into multiple pieces. And they did that based on, you know, is Russian your original language or is it not? What is your religion? Even though the whole country, for the most part, was not religious. You know, it's they find a way to separate. Here in the United States, we do that based on color, because
Yeah,
that's the easiest and the least common denominator that you can apply to. It's
yeah,
funny and sad at the same time that as humanity, that's what we're doing, and that's how we distill. It's just,
yeah. Well, it's certainly a reeks of colonialism. You know, it's sort of like,
yeah.
uh, you know, Black people aren't going to be like, oh, we're Black, you know, in Africa. But when a white colonist is like, oh, you people are different than us, you're Black, you know, it's like it's someone else's idea is then
Yeah.
imposed. Um, and it happens, it certainly happens in this country with the way people, whether it's, yeah, I don't want to get into it, but
Okay.
women do it to themselves, Black people do it themselves, lots of groups do it to themselves, and it's always using kind of like the language of the oppressor and trying to turn it. And no, you're still basing your identity of self in the oppressor's idea of you. The oppressor sounds really harsh, but for argument's sake, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, in my personal, you know, my personal prism is that, of course, I see color and I realize it, but it's such a small aspect of who the person is. It doesn't really kind of even register very much. It's either is the person a good person or is the person not a good person? And I mean that as objectively as I can, but is it just, you know, their behavior, their actions,
right.
and their words? Is it those of a good one or is it not? And everything else doesn't really matter to me. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm working on a bit of writing right now that's sort of the main tenet. It's like if you look around and find out who's been a big ass to you,
Mhm.
what do they have in common? And it's more likely that they're a narcissist. It's not that they're a certain race or gender, but they're self-important, they're arrogant, they aren't compassionate. These are the things. Like if you want to look for evil or Satan or bad people, or if you want to have an ist, you know, racist or sexist, you know, go
Yeah.
after the Like these are the people, like, and they can come in all different shapes and sizes and colors and genders and everything. You can be a they and be a horrible person, a she, a he, black, white, Chinese, doesn't matter. But those things don't make you good or bad. And again, people think the other way too. Like if you're a part of a certain, race or religion or socioeconomic group or whatever, oh well, we're better or we've had it worse, so you no, who you are as a person. Again, I believe, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., it's the content of our character, and that's varies from one person to the next.
Right. Yeah, I know. And again, the people who are of Jewish faith are not going to be happy with me right now. But one of the reasons why I'm not religious, I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious, is the whole idea of Jews being the chosen people. What does that mean? Chosen how? Yeah, come on. Let's deal with life the way it is. So yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
I would say, well, that's one of those things that's interesting. Like there are certain groups where it's a taboo to talk about anything in the group, and every group has its series of taboos. And I've heard that too, and I've heard different Jewish people say, we're the chosen ones. Well, it means this. Well, no, it means that. And like I hear these different variations, but I also, I don't know what the definitive answer is on that. I hear people that are African American talk about, well, I'm going to use the N word, but there's an A on the end, so it makes it different. And I personally think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I hope after all that people of color will stop doing that, because clearly not a good idea. I think we can all agree at this point, it's really not a good idea. Very unpopular for saying that years ago, but hopefully people get it now. But yeah, well, what does that mean? Like when you hear that, what's your interpretation? Because like I said, it's yeah.
To me, again, it's all of, we need to separate ourselves and we need to view ourselves as different. And I don't want people to view themselves as different as a race or as a gender or as a sexual orientation. I get the struggles that people deal with because they are viewed differently by others, and all they want to do is to be viewed the same as everybody else. I
Right.
understand that and I applaud that and I'm all for it, but don't treat yourself different. And for me to hear that we're the chosen people,
Right.
okay, does that make us any better than anybody else? Does that mean that we should be treated better than anybody else? What really? I don't care. And I always struggled against that. Anybody who elevates themselves for any regard is, to me, a person that I am not on the same on the same in the same language with, because
Right.
nobody should be elevating themselves above anybody else. Nobody should be belittling themselves below anybody else. We are people. We are imperfect.
Yeah.
We have lots of things that are great, lots of things that we need to be working on. Let's just treat each other at that level. And if you want to deal with somebody and they're an asset to you, don't deal with them. Deal with somebody else. I don't care if they're gay, straight, black, what their where they came from. It doesn't matter to me. And I want people to be more like that. Let's just treat each other as people, human beings. This is who
Yeah.
we are. We all have similar experiences. Some are different, and I want to learn about them to see how I can be a better person. But let's just start at the same base.
Yeah, to me it seems so simple. It seems so obvious. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
know. I'll ask you, like, is there any race or religion or gender that seems to be the best on the planet where no one in their group has ever done anything wrong?
Of course not.
Right, right.
Absolutely
It's completely moronic to think like that, but it
right.
doesn't stop a lot of people. But I think a lot of it comes from insecurity. I mean, I fully believe that insecurity is what fuels that fear, whether it's fear of persecution, um, fear of well, yeah, fear of persecution. I think for everybody, it's like I don't want to be different. I don't want someone to single me out and say that I'm bad. I don't want anyone to take something like my skin color or whatever and then say you suck because of it, especially when it's something that is intrinsic to who we are. So as a reaction, it's like scar tissue. It's like, oh yeah, well, people that look like me are the best. It's like, no, just that's too far. Like I get the pendulum swinging. I get the psychology of it, the emotion of it, but that should be a flash in the pan, and then you fall into something that's, like, I want to be like, yes, black is beautiful because it is, and because we need to hear that, and the world needs to see that. And it's been amazing to watch that something that used to be just with Black Lives Matter, something that was felt more like a black issue, and like through the 60s, obviously, like, plenty of Jewish people, plenty of white people, like, they jumped on board, and I'm sure Asians and Latinos did as well. Now you look all around the world and see how many people are jumping on board, and it's an amazing thing. Yeah, that actually threw me off my point because it's such an amazing thing. It's beautiful to see all that. But I guess what I was saying is the main point is that in the end, that should be something that adds to the collective and it's shared in the collective, but it doesn't mean that it needs to be a defining thing. People will say, well, how do you define yourself? I'm like, human.
Right.
Because the humanity is something I share with everybody. So I can say I define myself as a Mini Cooper driving Frisbee player, then only hang out with people that drive Mini Coopers and play Frisbee. And I guess people find value to that because it's safe. It's, oh, we've got a little group. We're safe from other people, but I think that's silly.
It is very silly, and yeah, the only thing that that kind of, I'm the happy-go-lucky type of positive guy, but the thing that makes me angry is seeing other people being taken advantage of, and for every reason, right? So if people are singled out because they're black, I'm really I start getting angry. If people start getting singled out because of their sexual orientation, I get really angry at those who single them out. I want everybody to be treated for who they are as, like you said, a human being. Everything else is just an addition to it. It's not the foundation and the main aspect.
Yeah, and I think it's sad that people, when they get scared, fall into these patterns or fall into these groups out of it's like, oh, I'm going to hang out with a bunch of people that are like me, so I don't have to deal with that crap anymore. But so that's sad. Another part of that that's sad is that when you have someone who, let's say they're in one of these groups and they do something that's horrible, the easiest path for other people is to go, well, everybody like that is bad. And it's partially because people will define themselves by their group instead of their individuality. So then people that are judging see the group instead of their individual identity. And it's just kind of like lazy human, certainly American behavior to want to put everyone into a group. But tribalism is real. I mean, men versus women, Republicans versus Democrats, Yankees versus Red Sox. It's all 2 points on a map, and life is so much richer than that. Thoreau says life is in the details, and it really is. And people just being sort of plotting like, what's this one or that one? That's all there is to it.
It's not. Yeah.
It's long. I think there's some things that you could say, no, this is right and this is wrong across the board, but there are very few things you can really put into those categories.
Agreed. All right, let's jump back into acting. I'm glad we had a chance to discuss this because I also needed to get things off of my chest. Thank you for working with me through it.
Of course. How do you feel? Do you feel a little bit lighter or heavier?
Lighter. Yeah, absolutely lighter, because it's, you know what? I was about to go on another tangent. We're not going there. We're just going to circle back to acting. You mentioned American Psycho, and in that story that I heard you tell, before in one of your interviews, you mentioned right before you got the job, you had a instance that kind of blew my mind and allowed me to see again through my perspective of what life and spirituality is. But you had an experience that I really want you to share with people. Would you please do that?
Sure. Thank you for asking. God, I tend to go on, which you already know. So this is a long one. I'll try to make it short.
Sure.
So I think it was, 1999. I was, struggling actor, city, and really wanted to be on Homicide: Life on the Street. Loved Tom Fontana and Barry Levinson, and just enamored with that and really eager to be working and feeling the same frustration that a lot of actors feel, like, when is this going to happen? And because when you know nothing, right? So this is when I knew after like very, very little. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. How's this going to work? And a friend of a friend said that he would take me to the set of Oz, which was a show that Fontana and Levinson were working on at the time. And I went over there, and oh, see, I've already screwed up the story, I guess. So let me backtrack for a second.
Yeah, sure.
So about a month before this happened, 2 months before this happened, I had an audition for American Psycho.
Okay.
And went into the audition. Good audition. Again, I didn't know anything. So when they were like, would you cut your hair? I was like, oh, it's time to be strong and bold. I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't cut my hair. Though lots of doormen have long hair. Maybe I wear a hat. And the cameraman was like, yeah, in little jackets. I was like, in little jackets. So I was having probably a little too much fun with the moment and trying to stick to my guns, but it worked out okay. But I walked away from that, and the casting director called me, like, would you cut your hair? And I was like, yeah, I'm doing well with my hair like this, but I guess I would. I'm like, doing well. Like, I had done like, 2 jobs, got maybe like $400 between the 2 jobs. I'm like, I'm doing pretty well with my hair. So I hung up the phone with him, and then I got to spend the next 2 months going, you idiot, why did you do that? Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is what you want to do. You get to work with these amazing people, and you're being an idiot. So in those 2 months, beating myself up and wondering how I can get this ball rolling and how I can't make this mistake again. And then a friend invites me to the Oz set. I go there. I'd met Tom Fontana a couple times. Really, really sweet man, and very sweet to remember who I was and then give me a tour of the Oz set, which was, again, as an actor who hadn't done anything yet aside from some student films, it was phenomenal to be in this place where, like, I'm getting a tour by someone that I completely admire of the set of his show. So I hang out there for a little while until I started feeling like the fifth wheel, and I'm like, okay, I should probably go and let them get back to work. I left, and I was in a state. I was like, it's so close. It's not my experience, but it's so close, and I ruined this audition, and when is this going to happen? And I'm walking across the street, and there's a car. I've got the light, and there's a car rolling towards me, and I can see the guy is like looking for, I don't know, CDs or tapes at that time period, maybe CDs, in a center console. And he's about to hit me. And like, at this point, I've been in New York long enough to be a New Yorker. So I whacked the hood of his car. I'm like, dude, I'm in the crosswalk. I got the light. And I mean, I didn't bang the car, but I slapped the hood loud enough that he could get his attention. And he got out of the car and just started screaming at me. And all of that sort of anger and confusion was just boiling up in me. And I hadn't been in a fight since I was 9. So I don't know what I was walking to. The guy was much bigger than me. He clearly would have killed me. But I was like, he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, why are you looking where you're going? And within 5 seconds of this altercation, I feel his tap. And I look, and it's like this little guy, and he just looks at me calm as can be. And he's like, it's not worth it. And I remember being like it was like almost like he hit me with this energy. And I was like, yeah, right, yeah, what am I doing? So I turned to the guy, I was like, yeah, he's right, you're not worth it. And the guy's like, yeah, well, you better. And I was like, yeah. And I literally, everything just drained out. And I turned, and the guy that tapped me was gone. And I mean, I got goosebumps telling you this. I don't know if any of that translates, but it was, I don't see how he could have gotten away. And I looked around. I mean, he didn't take a left. He didn't take a right. He wasn't behind me. He wasn't in front of me. I don't know where he went, but he could have saved my life, and he certainly saved my soul. And I think that I've had a few angels in my life. This guy was an angel for sure. So when I walked home, feeling very light, and very happy, and not even really just the fact that he stopped me and that I didn't understand where he went, and he was able to affect me so simply, and he spoke softly and kindly. And I got back home, back when people still had answering machines, and I saw a little light blinking on the answering machine, and I played the message, and it was like, so if you're willing to cut your hair a little bit, you're an American Psycho. And that guy could have put me in the hospital. I mean, I could have like, it was almost like I was given a choice in that moment. And luckily, because of an angel, I didn't. I mean, again, I haven't been fighting since I was a kid, so I can't imagine it would have escalated much more than that. But I still don't know. You don't know how crazy someone is. You don't know what could happen. So an angel stepped in. I got home and I got the part in American Psycho.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. To me, it's clear. My belief system, the way that I feel it, to me, it was an actual angel who came down because that was a pivotal point in your life and you needed assistance. So thank you, angels, from my perspective.
That was that. That's how I got my SAG card. That's why I'm here now.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the angel at that moment, because
Well,
you
with an
know,
angel, what I was.
yeah, it's true. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I want to jump into another interesting story that I heard you tell of tick, and how you got on tick, because it's important to understand again the paths and the reason why we take acting jobs and certain acting jobs. And in the case of tick, you know, you were already on Billions, and then you were offered a part of Thug number 2. Go into the tick experience. I think it'll be very useful to somebody.
Sure. Yeah. Right. So you make choices as an actor, what you're willing to do and not willing to do. And I've never been interested in doing stuff that pulls the race down or demeans people in general. I mean, I think that there are interesting parts of people that aren't great that I'd love to play. But yeah, I was doing Billions, having a great time with it. I had done another pilot around the same time. It was definitely a really great period in my career. And I had an audition for The Tick, and it was Thug number 2. And I was like, ugh, maybe they'll change the name or something. And it was like literally like, you know, like certainly with Trump calling people of color thugs now, it's like, oh God, maybe they'll still change the name. But I really loved the comic The Tick. Just thought it was hysterical. And even more importantly, one of my oldest and closest friends, Aaron Baker, who passed away before this, loved The Tick. And the director was amazing. He was the DP for the Batman Dark Knight movies. Really funny, really smart. The writer of The Tick was there. So I'm like, okay, these two guys, I get to do my own stunts, which I've always wanted to do, and get to do like a superhero thing. I'm like, you know, Aaron Baker, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. So Thug 2 wasn't stereotypical. He was a cartoon character. The Tick is cartoon. So Thug 2 was fine. So whatever, I mean, you know, maybe years from now I'll go, no, it was a mistake. But I think that I added up all the pieces and it made sense to me. So while the name is unfortunate, the experience was absolutely stellar. I mean, absolutely, even to the point where, and a complete side note, but important, I was coming down, I was a state away, driving down to shoot this job, and the car that I was driving, the wheel broke off the car on the way to the job. Lucky that it happened right after I got gassed. The cop was like, yeah, you're in a convertible. If you're on the highway and this happened, you'd be dead. I was like, yeah, thank you. So what happens, as you know, as an actor, if you can't make the job, that's a real serious problem.
Right.
I had done 2 days of work on The Tick at this point, and this happened. And I had to call down there and say, I don't have another car. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Like, I think I can get a car. I can call you guys back. And I just went into this panic mode. I was 4 hours late to work. All they did was, are you okay? You know, let's make sure you're good. You got to get yourself another car. It became like this loving embrace by the crew. And you might think, okay, they just did that so they could have a nice day. And then once you're gone, you're gone. I came back, worked 2 more days, and I ended up doing the second episode. So that kindness is in their heart. Like my character did not need to be in the second episode. So it was, again, a great show. I got to work with people who, sitting there and hearing stories about, Heath Ledger and some, shot they did in Dark Knight. It was hysterical listening to talk about creating the comic, just doing my own stunt. I still have a piece of the candy glass from slamming myself into the firebox. Like, amazing story. So yeah, there's a choice there, and it was like, well, what's important here? What's important for me to do, and what am I going to get from this that will elevate me, an honor to my friend? So Thug 2, so be it.
I thank you for telling the story, and thank you for making that choice.
Yeah.
I want people to do these things because you never know what it's going to lead to. Again, my level of my career, I was offered a role of a footman in a Columbia College production of the Pride, Prejudice, and Gaze, and they had it's all gender. Reversal, and it was a grand kind of production. And the reason why I did it is, again, it's an unpaid project. It's a student film. I have the role of a footman, which is a tiny role. But the whole reason why I said yes to that project is because Shea Coulee, who my daughter is a huge fan of, is Lady DeBerg in that project. And once I realized that, and my daughter, loves RuPaul's Drag Race, and she loves that whole culture. So that's how I heard the name Shea Coulee. And once I heard Shea Coulee, I told my daughter, hey, I'm thinking of doing this project. And her eyes lit up, and she said, is there any chance that I can possibly get on set? So I called them and I said, my daughter is a huge fan. Would you mind terribly if I bring her with me and she'll just, stay kind of on the side? They said, no problem. Please bring her over. So I said yes to that tiny little role. It ended up being 2 days of shooting. So I actually ended up having 2 scenes, which I didn't expect. I was elevated to the role of a butler of Lady DeBerg. I got to wear, costumes from a past century. I got to, speak with a British accent, and I loved every moment of it. I'm still waiting for the tape from it. So by the way, guys, please give me the tape. But my daughter got to meet Shea Coulee, and she keeps talking about that moment. I've been the father of the year for the last 2 years running now, and it was a great experience. And again, it was a project that didn't seem like something that I would want to do, and I enjoyed every moment of it. So actors out there, here you have a example of the tick. You have my tiny little example. Pay attention to those. You never know where they're going to lead you.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Individual choices over the group think is always good. So you can go, oh, I shouldn't do this because of whatever, and I think there are reasons why that would make sense, but you also have to make choices about you, and as long as you're being true to yourself and who the self is not a jerk, then that's pretty good. When I first started another thing, which to tie the 2 stories together, I've been very insecure about the level of training that I've had, certainly going to school for sociology and psychology. So when I first got to the city, I said, you know what, I don't want to do extra work, but I want to do extra work in a commercial, a TV show, and a film, so I can see how all of them work. And there are things that I don't know. And a lot of my friends who went to acting school said, yeah, they don't talk about a lot of the film things that you need to know. You learn on set anyway. And I've heard that from people that work at certainly these acting grad programs that are like, it's the same thing they'd say about college. There's book learning, and then there's like the street learning. Like being able to understand first position and different jobs that people have on set, like understanding those things. So when your first day, when you walk in and you've got lines, someone's like, okay, first position, and you're like, what the hell is that? And now all of a sudden you're not thinking about your character. Now you're like, oh, I'm an ass. I'm going to screw everything up. So for me, doing that extra work was hugely valuable, so I could see how the star or the secondary actors were working with the directors and second AD. I could understand what second team was. All these terms I didn't know, I was able to learn by doing that. And then one of the nicest things to come out of it that was surprising is that I was doing extra work on a film, an independent film. Turned out two friends were working on it. I had no idea they were working on it. And then one of the leads, this guy, Robert John Burke, who I totally love from his independent Hal Hartley films, Simple Men in particular. And he was there. And again, I didn't know any better. So I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to go approach one of the stars as an extra. So I just walked over to him. I was like, oh my God, I think you're the best. And my God, Simple Men. And this line, he was like, oh man, go ahead, sit down. And I remember one of the PAs rushing over, like, oh no, you're not supposed to. And he was like, no, it's fine. And we sat there, we ran lines from the movie. I got to learn a bit about what he does. And he was like, I'm doing extra work today. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, my bit today is walking through the scene and giving someone a dirty look. So it bridged the gap between where I was and where he was, that not everything is precious all the time. And also in that interaction, at one point they were like, oh, we need a bartender. And he was like, and then they found somebody, but he was trying to get me to come over, and he was trying to put me in that position, which is so kind. And on top of all that, I ran into him 2 other times in the couple of years after that. He took my reel one day. He called me, gave me feedback on what was on the reel. Another time he was working, and he introduced me to the director. And then I didn't work with him on Rescue Me, but we were there the same day, so I got a chance to thank him years later in the career. He gave me great advice, and because I respected him, I listened to it. And again, I would not be doing what I'm doing now if I didn't have that beautiful experience of doing extra work and meeting Robert John Burke and then getting great feedback, and him making me feel like where I was in my career was legitimate. He didn't make me feel like, oh, I'm just this idiot doing this thing. He made me feel like this is part of the process. So little things, small steps, small moves make a big difference.
It's beautiful. This is not the first time, by the way, and go back to something you mentioned. It's not the first time that I hear, as I'm talking to the actors who are on the show, about going to legit, top-notch theater programs, and then not having any information in those programs about auditioning, about film, about what it's like to be on set. It blows my mind. I cannot understand nor believe that people are spending 3-4 years in a program. They're spending a ton of money on these programs, and they're not teaching them how to be in film or on television, or the process of actual work as an actor trying to get a job. I don't understand it. I hope they have changed that since the actors have been there. If they have not, I will never endorse anybody going to any one of those programs.
Yeah, I mean, since I haven't gone to any of the programs, it's difficult for me to criticize appropriately, but I've heard that more than once. I've heard things. Actually, one of the best bits of advice I can speak on, back early in my career, first few years of it, I thought, let me get into a good acting program. So I started calling around, and I remember calling to, and I probably shouldn't say where. I called a very, I probably shouldn't. They'll find a way to come back and bite me. But the woman I spoke to was great. She was like, look, you could come here if you want, but it's a lot of money, and we don't actually teach film, television stuff. You're getting the experience right now. Like, the stuff that you've already learned from the couple jobs you've done is going to be more valuable in a lot of ways than what we can teach here. And I'm like, but you guys are blank. And she was like, yeah, but you have to it's not just about where you go. You can go to a place like, oh, it's got a great name, but you have to find someone who believes in you. And again, it's that general to specific. People just go, oh, I went to this place, so it's a great school. Okay, did you do a good job? Did you study? Did you have a teacher that believed in you, that you like put you under their wing and then help guide you? If the answer is no, then the name of the school might get you in a door, but that's it. Now, all that said, I still wish I had gone to some amazing grad school, but yeah.
Yeah, well, many actors have not. Russell Crowe, never did. He in one of his interviews with James Lipton, rest his soul, he mentioned that I always kind of felt inferior and I wanted to go to those programs. And by the time I had enough money to go to those programs, I was already a star and I didn't need to go to those programs. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, certainly not in Russell Crowe territory. I'll go ahead and arrogantly say yet, but it's it's true. I mean, that's what this teacher said. It's nice to hear. Thank you for telling me that, because I didn't know that. And it's true. Like if I were to try to get into a program now, like I think I've studied with different teachers since, which has been good. But yeah, if I were to try to get into a program, they'd probably say, okay, you've got to spend the next 2 years, 3 years not auditioning and just doing the program. I don't know if that would serve me right now.
you wouldn't.
So
Yeah.
all I'm doing, like if I look at my career, I'm going in and trying to fill in all the potholes or all the areas that are these chasms where I'm like, oh, I didn't learn that. I didn't do that. Okay, well, this feels weird. And whether it's about confidence on set or just, I guess that's really it, confidence on set, I'm trying to go in and fill in all those gaps.
Yeah. I agree with you. You don't need to go to and get your MFA in it. I don't think that's something that is needed at this point in your career. Just work with some excellent people who know what they're talking about, who understand who you are, and can help you fill those gaps. And thankfully, in our acting business, there are plenty of them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's get to some interesting kind of tidbits.
Okay.
You're a very private person, and I appreciate you opening up and kind of sharing a lot about yourself here. But if you were to pick one thing that most people do not know about you, what would that be that you're comfortable in sharing?
I'm gonna look around the apartment, see if there's anything I can find. I've got a sink, but now everybody knows that. Um, let's see. Okay. Consider myself an artist of sorts. Actually, I think of myself as a scientist, but I have no proof of that. Um, when I was in college, so all right, so I used to draw. I still draw from time to time. Photographer, actor, and I'm the director of photography. I've directed things. Writing is something that's hugely important to me. And when I was in college, I had an amazing opportunity that I said no to. That when someone asked me what my regrets are, it's always the number one regret. There were two people, I guess, that the movie Dead Poet Society was based on. And one of them was actually teaching at my college. And my writing teacher at the time let me know this. And he said it was an invite only class or recommendation only class. And he recommended me. I think, considering how important Dead Poet Society was to me and the fact that I already knew that I was supposed to be doing sociology and psychology, and I kept on straying back into the arts, that I was like, I don't think I can do this. Mostly it was insecurity, though. I was like, oh my God, no, I could never. I had enough people push me down over the years that I have believed it more often than I should. And I said no to it. And as a result, I've been paid as an actor and paid as a photographer, and I've been frightened to put my writing out there. I want to say it's changing. I'm doing writing. I'm working with someone, a friend of mine who is a screenwriter, and trying to get some essays out there, and then showing him some of the other work that I've done. So it's hugely important to me, like hugely important. And since the pandemic, I can't seem to stop writing. But my my fear is based in that moment where I should have taken this guy's class. I can't imagine where I'd be. Now, maybe he would have been like, oh my God, you're terrible, and I'd never write. I don't know. But I guess not if I was recommended for the class. But I think that is an area that's one of those holes that I'm trying to fill. So there's something about me.
Thank you for sharing that. And life is circular. So the universe gave you a chance to go and write. At that point, you didn't take it. It doesn't matter why. It just means that it came around again. So you should utilize the another chance to take advantage of it and start writing. So please do that.
I will. I totally. I don't want to be ruled by signs and things like that, but I do try to pay attention. It's very Celestine prophecy. I'm like, okay, nothing happened accidentally.
Yes.
I'm not going to just go looking for things and try to make them more important. But the writing thing, yeah, it's knocking at my door every day.
Yeah.
So,
well, open it and welcome it with open arms.
Oh, it's been open. Now we're wrestling. Yeah.
Good. Well, wrestling is good. Hey, if you need any wrestling advice or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you have a person or a couple of person on Billion Set that you can ask that question of.
Right.
You know, one of them I'm referring to is
Timothy was so fantastic, by the way. That was great.
Timothy is just such a pleasure to talk to and to listen to and to learn from. Such introspective, interesting person. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, no, he was great. I'm looking forward to, again, when you work on a show, like it's one of those things that before you do this job, like anything else, you have an idea of what it's like, and then once you do it, you go, oh, okay, that was. So I always thought if people were in a movie together that they work together, but you cannot have scenes with people and never see them. Like I think he and I have seen each other at like one table read, but we never have scenes together. So it's only recently connected. But yeah, he seems great. He seems great. Yeah, he's great on the show.
Yeah, well, if only you didn't listen to the Paul Giamatti signs or the Giamatti signs and you were Team X, you would have spent time with with Damian Lewis and you would have spent time with Chef Ryan on that show.
That's true, but I mean, I got to tell you that those table reads, Damian Lewis has said a couple things to me that were so incredibly kind that, again, just everyone there, and I heard Tim say it, and it's absolutely true. The people that they have gathered for that show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make anyone jealous, but man, I hope everyone gets a chance to be in a room that's just like that. The camaraderie, the fun, but also the incredible intelligence and commitment to doing a good job. So,
I couldn't agree more. I told Tim that the Billions is one of those where I would happily pay to be on set. He said, no, make sure you get paid, but it's one of those where I was even tempted. It's shot in New York, obviously right now as everything is on hiatus, but I was tempted because I see the extras parts coming along all the time. I'm like, I have to be a part of that universe. I'm not going to do the extra because I want to be able to potentially have whatever small co-star or any other role I can gather. So but over the last 4 years, I've been like, I just want to be there.
Yeah, it's tricky again. I mean, this is just like in life, you've got to make choices, and you could make the wrong choice. But I think one of the important things to remember is that for the most part, you can always go back and make another choice, or you learn from that choice. So maybe you do extra work on it. You're like, oh, I really wanted to be on the show, but you might meet someone who has a great conversation with you. Just the same thing I said about Robert John Burke. You could have that experience, or you might have the experience like myself with the writing teacher, where you spend years going, why did I do that? I should have never done that. So you don't know, but that's, if you can enjoy the process of life and work, then you understand that you got to take the crookeds with the straights, to quote Fences. It's going to be a mix of good and bad. The people that just try to keep everything safe, they end up not being affected by life and end up having a fairly boring existence. It's safe, and you can go, oh yeah, I did everything I was supposed to do and nothing went wrong.
Yep, never wanted to be one of those people, and I'll continue trying not to be.
Yeah.
No offense to
And
anybody who is.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, no offense to anybody who is. It's just that's not me.
No, 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 and I totally get it, but step outside of your comfort zone responsibly.
Okay, you mentioned something, and
And
I'm one of
the-
those annoying storytellers. I have to tell this story because it deals with acting
oh,
and stepping outside of your comfort zone. So I finished Second City, the A through E programs, which is basically a year. I took a few more classes, and I wanted to audition for the conservatory program. I love singing. I love musicals. I've mentioned that many times on the program. I am not a good singer. I have a very wide range, but it has Swiss cheese types of holes all throughout it, and I haven't worked enough to cover them up. So, of course, I auditioned for the musical improv conservatory program because I thought, why not? Talk about stepping outside of your comfort zone. So I go there and I go to the table where the people are welcoming you, and I write my name in it, and I ask, hey, what's kind of the process? What's going to be on there? She said, well, we're gonna, put you into some two-person scenes, into three-person scenes. So you may have to do kind of some singing on the spot, some kind of improv. Well, we may also kind of ask you questions, or maybe a kind of, sometimes they throw out a name of a person, and then you have to come up with a song of the person on the spot. I'm like, okay, that sounds awesome. So I'm sitting there again. I'm early, so I have time, and I'm a poet, I'm a lyricist, so I'm thinking, yeah, well, let's start there. And I start kind of writing songs about, some famous people, some politicians, and I'm having fun. And in the back of my mind, I keep on hearing Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt. And I'm thinking, yeah, whatever. They're not going to mention Brad Pitt. And I keep on writing about others. And I keep, Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt. And my intuitive kind of background basically says, okay, I hear Brad Pitt, I need to write about Brad Pitt. So I write a song about Brad Pitt. And then I get ready for other stuff, and then they finally call us in. They get on stage. We get on stage, and there are people, in the audience who are the directors, and they say, "Introduce yourselves," and so on. First thing we're going to do is, we're going to kind of decide and throw a name of a celebrity, and you have to come up with a song on the spot. So I'm, kind of snickering to myself, thinking, yeah, that would be funny. So they talk to each other, and then we get on stage, or they pick a few people to step forward, and of course they say Brad Pitt, and I sing my song, and in the back of my mind I'm thinking, okay, I'm an intuitive. This is improv. Does it work together? Because if I know what's coming ahead of time, is it really improv? So I, do that audition. We do the two-person scene, three-person scene. I think I do fairly well, but I did not get accepted into the program. The lesson from all of this for me, and hopefully for actors who are listening, is that when you put yourself in a situation where you're not letting fear dictate, where you push those boundaries, the universe is always there to support you in ways that you might never have imagined, like it did for me with Brad Pitt.
right. I totally agree. That's great.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And it is, by the way, it is improv still. I mean, I think that's what improv really is that you have this sort of wealth of knowledge experience that you then can turn on and access in that moment. So you were more keyed into the universe. So that should be something you're celebrating.
yeah, I was. It's still one of my kind of favorite moments that happened to me in my life. So,
That's
um,
awesome.
what's the weirdest thing that ever happened to you on a TV or a movie set?
Uh, you mean filmed or behind the scenes?
Um, Behind the scenes is more interesting to me.
Right. I've been really fortunate. I don't think anything. What's the weirdest thing? I guess the thing that kind of caught me off guard is I did a show called Wisdom of the Crowd,
Mhm.
um, and the entire experience around it was phenomenal. Monica Potter was on that show, and
Monica
huge.
Potter.
And I've seen her forever. Think that she's awesome. Heard she's super nice. Um, so she was on the show, but she wasn't. She was busy doing something else when I first got there, so she wasn't part of that sort of collective. And got out of the trailer one day, and we almost smacked into each other. And I got to say, I was not ready for it. I mean, because I was like, wow, Monica Potter, and like, she's just awesome. She is better in real life than she is on screen, which is already pretty awesome. So turned around, she's like, "Oh my God, hey, how are you?" And like, "Oh my God, this is great." And just engaging and friendly and sweet. And just, yeah, immediately big hug, and it was like great. And then she had to get rushed off. So I had like 7 seconds of like, what just happened to me? Like I was here and then I almost hit somebody, and it was Monica Potter, and she was really nice, and we got a hug, and then she rushed off. And I was like,
Yeah.
and then after she left, there were guys in the background, crew guys, that were running around playing with their RC cars. And I was just like, I think I'm still sleeping.
Was that the second angel sighting you were referring to earlier?
You know what? She was incredibly sweet. She was incredibly sweet. Yeah. Yeah. No, she was, you know what, in a way, she really was. Because when you come in contact with someone that you've watched on screen for so long,
Yeah.
you're, okay, we're co-workers, I'm a fan. They get a little mixed up in terms of what experience am I having, what experience am I giving her. She was just, it's something I've seen with the people I've worked with that are the most talented and some of the nicest people, is that they kind of get that it's a combination experience, so she was able to stay real, stay herself in that moment, despite, this is a new person or possibly a fan, or I've got to rush off to work. And that's something that, I was saying something similar about Giamatti, something I really admire. Yeah, that was probably the most surreal moment. Yeah, because I was totally not expecting it. And I also, we were shooting in Vancouver, so like, okay, it was like a dream. I'm in a place I've never been before. I'm in a trailer that has stuff I've never seen in it. I'm about to shoot with people I've never worked with before. I just flew in the night before, and now Monica Potter and I almost like smacked heads, and now now she's gone, and now I'm watching guys race RC cars. I'm just like, I don't know what.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you get a chance to work with a little bit on that project, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, with another wonderful person and an actress who was on my show, Elfina Luck.
Yes, that's how I met Elfina, and she was awesome. We did not have a scene together, but we hung out in the green room together. She got to watch Richard, who was on that show. He and I are, I like him very, very much. And he and I was just trade barbs back and forth. We would just like, da, 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 da. And he was like, "How long have you guys known each other?" He was like, I just met him like yesterday. Like, so she actually saw that interaction, then the genesis of that friendship. But yeah, she's kicking butt. So to find, again, someone who was really, really sweet that I met years ago, see her excel is great, because you really want it to happen to the people that are great.
Yes, yeah, she's wonderful. I really, really enjoy talking to people who are, very introspective, very open, love the craft, love acting, and want to talk about it. It was a great interview.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, I saw it. It was great. But yeah, she's. I hope continued success for her.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, fingers crossed for all of you guys. I mean, this is now it's at least in my mind now it's a family. So I'm pulling for everybody who's on the show.
And you too. And that's the beauty of this path, is that you're definitely on the path less traveled, and the further you go down the path, the fewer people. I always say it's like ships passing the night. Like it is not an easy life choice, and it's certainly, when people ask about that, they're like, well, it's got to be really, really hard. And I'm like, it is difficult, but not for the reasons that you might think. You're like, oh, the rejection. I'm like, I don't know. That's like, it's worse when I get rejected from asking someone out. Like that feels pain. That's like pain. An audition, it's like, whatever, you know. But it's all the other stuff. It's dating relationships, it's finances, it's people looking at you saying, when are you going to change, or when are you going to get a real job? It's family dynamics. It's looking at your friends get married while you're going, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, it's all that stuff that makes it really complicated. But actually doing the job is fun and great.
Mhm. So getting into that and getting kind of the difficulty of your lifestyle and a little bit of mine. If you had to give yourself a bit of advice, kind of if you traveled back in time and were able to speak to the young Malachi who's just starting out, and you had a chance to give one bit of acting advice, what would that be?
Well, if I could go back, an hour, I would say we need to figure out times to do this where it's not either a tornado or a heat wave. Because if I could just go back an hour, that's where I'd say let's find a different day where it's not, we don't have a climate shift.
Yep.
But if I could go back to young me as an actor, one, if young me saw me now, he'd be really depressed and want to make changes. Like, you got fatter than I thought and older than I thought. Jesus Christ. Like, he would be very upset. What is that, a gut? Where'd that come from? No, but I think what I would say is trust yourself. Trust yourself more. There are so many voices. That's that other point. There's so many voices that tell you that you can't make it, you can't do it. I mean, basically, it's every good story. You get all these people saying you can't make it. You got to find something in you that says, you know what, I'm going for it. And I wish that I did have support, certainly. I wish I had more of it. And I wish that when I didn't have it, I didn't listen to the naysayers. You've got to trust yourself, and the society um, does not encourage original thought. It doesn't really encourage taking chances. It encourages taking chances like, I'm going to jump off of a cliff into the water.
Yeah.
Simple chances, it's fine with encouraging. But, trust your instincts and go after your dream and make a mark and make the world a better place. I wish I had more of that flowing through me when I was younger. So I think I would like to be a constant reassuring voice to trust the path that you're on, and to go off the path every now and then. I mean, my path was already off the path, but go off even further. Take more chances. Most amazing things I've experienced in life have come from doing that, whether it's being open mentally or taking a different chance as an actor. Doesn't matter. Just trust that inner voice and continue to be okay with the failures. We learn from our mistakes, and people that are afraid to make mistakes. And again, I shouldn't say that. I'm afraid to make mistakes. I think that's it. It becomes so precious. Like, oh yeah, you have to be this person or that person. It's a constant battle. Every day you've got a choice, and every moment you've got a choice as to whether or not you're going to be open or closed or whatever. And we have to. The more you take those chances, the more rewards you get, the more likely you are going to continue taking those chances. So, but if you don't take the chances, everything gets scarier and scarier. If you know fewer and fewer people that are different than you, then they all become scary. If you stay in your job for a long time and you say, well, I really want to be an artist, but I'm making all this money doing this other job, the more you stay, the less likely you'll try something different. So try different things, do them when you're young, and yeah.
Yeah, or do them when you're middle-aged, like me doing this. It's not easy. And
No,
go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say that it's a great point. I mean, every passing year, I look at actors that are older than me that made it when they were older than me. I'd be like, well, Danny Glover, he started when he was late. Danny Aiello, he started when he was late. The moral of the story is, if your name is Danny, you seem to be able to start.
Or Rod Thorne.
Yeah. Well, look, this is the thing, and none of it matters, and that's the main point, is that if you go off of my example or someone else's example, they're examples, they're sort of guideposts. But what I like about this job, my best friend is an ER doctor, and we talk about this thing back and forth, like, you know, whose life is cooler, and it's always like, no, no, you made the right choice, no, no, you made the right choice, kind of thing. But you gotta, there's not a prescribed path for this, and it makes it really scary at times. You can't offer the same guarantees if you do something that's more traditional. But not to put too fine a point on it, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I don't know who had a guarantee that's working out.
No.
So you
Yeah.
might as well, you want to do.
Yeah. Be you, be true to yourself, and every choice, make it from that perspective.
Yes,
So
but if you're an asshole, go get therapy and then be yourself afterwards.
that is very cool. So be you unless you're an asshole, and then work on it.
That's right. Be you unless you're got issues, in which case get fixed and then go be yourself after.
Excellent. I think
I think that's really important, because there's this idea, and I think it's actually it started probably in the late 80s, and I think it's really corrupted our country. That idea that you're great no matter what, you're just fine at who you are. That's not exactly true. You doesn't now, and again, it's like it's been corrupted. Like if you're in a wheelchair, or if you're black, or if you're white and you're poor, whatever your issue is, it's okay to be like, yeah, no, you know what, I'm still a good person, those things shouldn't affect me. But it doesn't mean that I can be a jerk and I'm okay because I'm okay. Like, so it kind of went past the line that it was supposed to go in terms of being inspirational into an excuse.
Yeah, but you're right, and therein lies the difference. It's who are you on the inside? You
Right.
know, that is what we should be talking about. The outward appearance,
Right.
that's a whole different subject. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
perfect. Well,
Little
thank you, Mike.
nuance to forget
Yeah.
about.
Huh?
Little nuance people tend to overlook.
Yeah, which is the one that they should be focusing on in the first place. But
Right. It's like saying, well, it's just a bad apple. It's like, that's an idiom, and
yeah,
you can't pick and choose. It's bad apple spoils the bunch, or barrel, depending on where you want to get it from. But you got to say the whole thing, and the whole thing is a different meaning than just the part that you've cherry picked. So that's it. We need to stop cherry picking parts of life that make us look good or sound good, whether it's putting something on Instagram or saying something like that. Give the full picture. And again, I mean, it's more fair to you, and also fair to people that are listening. I could sit here and whether it's with my photography or with you, and tell you a bunch of really fun, hysterical stories that involve celebrities and make everyone go, wow, that's so cool. But I don't know if that helps as much as understanding some of the other stuff that actually becomes the foundation that lets you have those experiences.
yeah. No, and I appreciate you sharing those, because the rest of it would be lovely sound bites and probably get me a ton more views. But that's
Right.
not why we're here and why we're doing this.
Right. I'll
Um,
drop some names in a few minutes just to get you some more.
yeah, no problem. But we're going to drop them after we stop recording, because then I could feel good about myself.
There you go.
Um, Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you opening up and sharing this time with us. It's immensely valuable. I know it's immensely valuable to me personally, but I'm sure it's very valuable to the people out there who are trying to figure out who they are in this business and how to go about it. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for doing this. I think it's really, really important. There's something in our society, and I'm sure it exists in other societies, but I can't speak of what it's like living in, Bulgaria or wherever. So I can only talk about this. There's a creepy capital there. I can't remember the actual term for it, but it's like this kind of capitalism on steroids. This kind of, I have information, I'm not going to give it to you, so good luck, figure it out on your own,
Right.
which I find really disgusting, to be honest. So I got a chance to be here because you asked me to. I got a chance to be here because I've met actors and casting directors along the way that have been giving with information and time. I always think about barn raisings, the Amish and barn raising, and a bunch of people coming together to do something kind. And I think that's what the world should be. So if anyone's got questions, if you've got questions, feel free to ask, because if you don't ask, you won't find out. And no judgment zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only way we get better is by a conversation.
Yes. And thank you for that. Yeah, I think it goes back to and if people want to figure out something about themselves, just ask a simple question. Do you enjoy giving presents more, or do you enjoy receiving presents more? And I think, Malachi, I'll speak for you in this instance, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you and I both enjoy giving presents a lot more than receiving them. So the ability to share information and help somebody else is kind of so ingrained, we don't know why people think the other one would be the true approach.
Yeah, I agree, but I'll tell you something else that it's again part of this writing, and I think it's important for where we are in a society right now. I think that there are different groups of people that feel bad about themselves for one reason or another, and there's some people that should feel bad about themselves on a certain level. Like, yeah, if you want to get stuff and you don't give stuff, yeah, you're not awesome. But a lot of times those people already know there's something wrong, or they'll hear something like this and go, oh yeah, well, whatever, and push it off. And I would say the human family wants to welcome you back into the fold. Try giving the present and getting some joy from that. You're not a lost cause if you're that other person. And I mean, the present thing is one example, but what's great about humans is the potential to evolve, the potential to become something greater than we were. And it's weird to me that everyone loves watching superhero movies, which is, and pretty much every superhero goes through this thing.
Yep.
In real life, people like the villains, and they act. I don't know how all the Avengers movies have done so well, and we're in this place as a society. Did people not watch them? Did they just go to them and then text while they were watching?
I don't know. I don't know. Okay, well, yeah. Let's wrap it up here and allow people to kind of go and think for themselves and decide who they want to be, how they want to approach our society, and hopefully make a choice that there is much more in common with all of us and be a kinder, gentler, nicer, more giving person.
I agree. It's a very Eastern philosophy kind of way of looking at things too. Like, the tree that bends is the one that doesn't break. The resistance of water. Like, it's so easy to be kind, and it actually takes a bit of effort to be a jerk and to be stuck in the mud. And it's really simple. I think if people slow down enough, and I kind of was hoping this with the pandemic, that people's lives would slow down enough that they could see it, but it went from slow to not believing to scared to wherever the hell we are now. It'll change by tomorrow.
Yeah, it will. Well, hopefully it'll pass and we all come out of it better on the other side. And
yeah, these usually do. So hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody for tuning in and watching these conversations. Please, comment, tell us what you think. Please follow. Please follow a very private person, but somebody who does have an Instagram account in Malachi. We'll put that link there. And we know you love acting as much as we do, so we enjoy doing this for you and with you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have fun out there, everybody. Be safe.
Be safe. Bye.